Hello and welcome back to Bricking It. Today we're working on Malfoy Manor, another one of our hidden bookshelf scenes. Here I'm just reinforcing the base because I need to build up the floor level. You can see here I've left the strip at the end unused, and I'll come back to why that is a bit later on. So first of all, we're putting in the bottom layer of the wall, just a single layer of bricks, including a few of these brackets. That's going to be to hold on our book covers at the back. Now, switching to jumpers, let me explain why that is. So, our fireplace is going to be an odd number of studs across, but obviously the large fireplace parts that we're using are made of an even number of studs, so we need to offset our bricks by half a stud on each side to get that nicely centralised. Then we're using these jumpers on the top just to bring that back in line for the rest of the build. I've got a plate on there, so we'll just place that in. Using these palisade bricks here at the side, now you can see our half a stud gap, and that's going to be covered with these pillars. Now in the original Malfoy Manor set, this is a truly massive fireplace. And these pillars go all the way down to the ground, being round all the way to the bottom, which is why I've raised up the floor. And you'll see when we move on to the main floor of the building that the floor is actually a brick's height off the base plate. Using these brackets here, we're going to start filling in the front of the fire surround. We're just using dark tan just for a bit of variation in our colour scheme. Now in the original there's a very nice Malfoy coat of arms on this large recessed area at the back of the fireplace. Of course with no sticker available, I'm not able to add that, so we're just going to have to imagine it. Although it might be a good reason to commission a really nice sticker for that space. The mantelpiece is ornate and carved, and for the pieces at the end need to use tan, but for the mainstay of the mantelpiece I'm going to be using these snot bricks in sand blue, which I found on the pad ball fairly recently. And then again at the end got those in tan. Because we're using an odd number of studs for our fireplace, all of these pieces are only available in even sizes. We're going to have to use that gap left in the middle. We can disguise that with our facing bricks. And we can see the depth of the fireplace with those tan bricks at the side. Now above the mantelpiece we have two large decorative panels that seem to fade away in the distance, forcing some perspective. Unfortunately the angles and shapes aren't all available in Lego pieces to faithfully recreate this, but we're making up these two panels. Here at the top we're going to put one of these new half round plates and some of these quarter rounds at the top, just to get a rough approximation of the shape of our panels. And of course we're going to need two of those. Just going to fill in around these panels. These pieces are going to be obscured, hence the not always consistent colour of the bricks. Try where I can to use tan all the way through, just in case you're going to see a corner or an edge. But as this is for largely viewing from front on, don't always need to be that precise. Now there's a small ledge just above these covings. We're using a couple of these rail pieces just to try and indicate that. Now we're going to continue the pillars up onto this second part of our grand fireplace. Got some bracket pieces and some cheese wedges at the top just to bring out the ledges. There's a lot of extra decorative work at the top of the fireplace, and all that needs to be supported. I was considering using these small Technic tubes to build these columns, but I thought because they're slightly different lengths and then don't always line up with brick heights, I just stuck with regular cylinders. So we do get that slight variation going up the columns. Here now we're just adding in some of these rocker tables, just lent on a cheese wedge to offer support, just to keep the angle consistent. And these are going to support the large decorative wings at the top of our build. But before we install those, I get to use one of my 5 long plates. Fairly new piece, no really need to use it particularly here, but I did want a slightly cleaner look and I'd bought one, so I was going to use it. And the top of our decorative piece is just finished off here, using some of these curved slopes along with a cone and yet more cheese wedges. You can see the top is a bit rough, not a completely smooth progression all the way up. That's going to be somewhat obscured when we add in our next decoration. It's a fairly simple construction, and the method of building this is very similar to what was used on the porchway above the Daily Prophet entrance and the diagonally set. It's almost exactly where I got the idea of how to construct these wings. I'm just going to add those onto the rocker plates. Just on one side, they don't go back, they actually stick out more, so that brings them in line with those cheese wedges sticking out at the front there. We get a nice depth of detail on our fireplace, progressing from the mantelpiece all the way up to those wings. Now it's time to look at the wood panelling, and the majority of this is made up of these 1x2x3 windows in dark brown with the dark brown panes on. I use 3 of these stacked with 1x2s in between, and that's going to take us up level with those palisade bricks we put in earlier. In between each row, got some 1x5s in dark brown, and then an extra 1x1 to bring us up to our 11 stud height. Here we've got a reddish brown brick because we're going to add a portrait. In the original set there were 2 large family portraits that took up the majority of this panelled space, and I would like to have found a couple of much larger pictures to fill in the space here, but I've had to make do with some of the portraits that came in the Hogwarts Grand Staircase gift with purchase from last summer. Adds an appropriately Wizarding World air. You can see the other one going in. And that's pretty much how we're going to do the wood panels. I did consider possibly, instead of the 2 central straight columns, you can see it's a bit wobbly here, just going to add a plate across the top just to stabilise that. Yeah, instead of the 2 columns of brick, I've taken those out and putting in a 4th row of windows. And I had a little look at it, but I think I prefer the space of the bricks all around. So I haven't got quite enough height in the build to get 4 stacks of windows, so I would have had to put the bricks in between the windows, and that would, then throw off the symmetry. Now I'm building up the rest of the roof. We actually transitioned to plaster, and we're adding in a couple more brackets at this point. This is going to help secure the back piece on. These aren't really germane to the build on the inside. It's when the book is up on my bookshelf and it's displaying the spine side out, because all of these displays get hidden on the bookshelf. Now our row at the end, just going to put in another stack of bricks just to fill in that space. And again, when we start talking about the floor of the build, I'll actually come back to why we haven't gone all the way to the end of the base plate and some possible future additions to this MOC. So just using those 1x3 sloped pieces just to bring our stud layer over those tilt tables that are holding on the front. That will just help to get a smooth layer of brick all the way across and stop those from wobbling about too much on the front of the build. And this whole part is just going to be finished off with a couple of rows of bricks, and in a vague nod to the mouldings at the top of the wall in the original set, just got a row of slope bricks at the top. So that's the end of the first part of this video, the fireplace and the wood panel walls. Next time we'll be moving on to the floor of the build and the minifigs involved in its creation. If you've enjoyed this video, please leave us a like, and if you'd like to see more builds featuring some scenes from the Wizarding World as well as our full Hogwarts Castle MOC, then please subscribe to Bricking It. Bye bye.